Good evening, everyone. My name is Urim Han, and today I would like to introduce my student concierge service. So let's start off with some statistics. Currently, there are about 2.4 million foreigners living in Japan, with that number predicted to rise. That means hundreds of people every day, students, expats, immigrants, start their lives in Japan, but they're all facing similar problems. Can you relate to any of these? If you're a foreigner in Japan, you know how much of the stress and how much time you can waste trying to just do simple things such as settling down. On top of that, being piled with paperwork and just not understanding what it means, it can be such a hassle. That's where our service comes in. We are trying to prevent these kind of problems. So who are we? We are top university students who can literally accompany you to the bank when you make a bank account, when you make a phone contract, when you register your registration card, and more things. Not only do we translate for you, but we make sure that you find the right deals so you're not paying for extra things or things that you didn't sign up for, like other options. So you might be thinking, well, I can get all this information online, or why can't I just get my friends' help? Well, our edge is that we merge the pros of both of these by creating an experience that is both informative and personalized to you. So this is the pricing chart that I have come up with, and this is the result of surveys and interviews of about 150 people from Facebook and from my school and online. So I'm confident that this price range is something that people are willing to pay and that it is a reasonable price. And also for the rate that I would be paying for my students would be about 2 times the minimum wage, making it a good part-time job for them as well. So if you're thinking, how exactly is this going to save me money? Well, let's take a look at a case study. On the left, this is based off of a true story, but on the left is my friend who figured out all of this on her own. And so you can see here, not only did she sign a very expensive phone contract, but she made a lot of mistakes, added unnecessary options, and ended up paying for things that she didn't want to. Whereas on the right is an example of my friend who I went with her, and we went through this process together. And not only did we end up finding a really cheap plan for her, compared to my friend on the left, when we calculated, you can see that she saved average of about 66,000 yen a year. And also it was stress-free and fun. So how am I going to be reaching my customers? Well, first of all, for students, I would be reaching out to universities who are sending their exchange students over to Japan. I would be getting in touch with those families specifically. And for other foreigners living in Japan, I would be networking with communities that already exist and online hubs. So for the management, as of now, I'm still a one-man team, and I've been living in Japan for 11 years, and so I've been helping a lot of my friends who face these similar dilemmas of paying excessive amounts for rent, being charged more than what they're expecting for their phones. And on top of that, currently I'm interning for a mobile app, which is a platform for language learners to come together. And so I've been exposed to the kind of incentives that work for independent contractors in this kind of service. And so I would be looking for students to help me through my various student groups that I'm a part of, that being one of them. So, as of now, currently, I am confident that I have the validation of the solution and the pricing, because 70% of people who have already experienced the settling down process said that in retrospect, they would have hired our assistants had we existed. And exchange students said that their parents would have been willing to pay if they knew about this. And so my next steps would be to figure out how to market my project to the families of students who are about to come abroad and other expats as well. And I'm hoping that I'll be able to expand the scope of my services even more to include things like education and health-related things, and to eventually make an app to make it more convenient to reserve the assistance. Yes, so the first weeks of settling down in Japan don't have to be stressful. With us, we can make it enjoyable. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. It's a very good idea, it's very straightforward. My main question is, who's your competition? Because it's basically consulting activity and you have a lot of consulting companies doing exactly the same thing already. So who do you identify as your direct competition and what's your assets compared to them?
So actually when I was looking into the kind of competition that we have, so like specialized assistance for foreigners specifically, I couldn't actually find, I found that one other company that does something similar, but it doesn't seem like they have much popularity, or a lot of foreigners don't really use it. And so I think through my interviews I was actually able to also find out that people, when they go through this process, they just go through help through friends. And that was like the number one thing that they turned to. Like no one that I talked to said that they went through any such company.
Okay. And you were saying that one of your targets was to work with universities. I remember when I was an exchange student in Japanese university, we had a group of students already from the university dedicated to do that. Without having to pay anything, and I know that in a lot of universities it's the same as well. So how do you position yourself compared to this?
Thank you, that's a really good question. And so I looked into the different, so using my school as an example, I'm from Waseda University. We have the most number of foreign students in Japan, the school that has the most number of foreign students, and we do have like a community, like you said, a student group that is targeted for this. However, because it's purely voluntary, they don't actually go with you to places. They'll give you suggestions, and maybe if you make a good friend, they might be willing to do it. But like I said, because it's voluntary, they're not willing to go as far to make sure like you're not being scammed, or willing to go through all the paperwork with you. I think it's hard to find someone who's willing to do all of that.
Cool. Interesting idea. Yeah, I like it. It's very cool. As a Gaijin that has had a lot of issues here, I think there's a lot of opportunities with this idea. Of course, I think there's also opportunities outside of college students, with just general individuals coming to Japan. Can you explain to me again the pricing model? Because I think you had a slide there, but it just seemed a little confusing.
I had to skip through it.
It's okay. And is this, so you would kind of break this up, okay, and is this based on the information you got from your surveys?
Yes, the majority of, yes, all of the prices are things that I have averaged out from the result of all my surveys.
Okay, all right. I have more of like a comment, not a question, but I think it might be more beneficial to like make things really simplified, because sometimes people coming here don't really know what they want, you know? There's certain things they did not know until 2 or 3 weeks after being here that they needed, so. But anyways, really cool, interesting, definitely lots of opportunities, so good job.
Yeah, really good presentation. And I have just a comment, not really a question. I think you chose a really good market, which are students, and I think if you expand it a little bit more to young people that just willing to stay in Japan and try to work here, it's really good shot. Because there are a lot of expats, right? And they have their sources of like how to deal with all this stuff. But I have like also the problem of like seeing those shady, web pages when you don't really know that you want to pay for this service, and you kind of think that your friends can help you. So I agree that it has to be very simple. Your target is really good in target market, and just keep it really clear for whom you are making it. And I also agree that probably pricing by the service is not a good idea, because most of them just like, I didn't know that I need to have all of that. So if you do it in a consultancy way, maybe it's better to charge like, I don't know, by hours or by, like sessions or something like that.